Hey everybody, welcome to the show. So we got, gosh, 28 feels like 20. No, thank you. Glad it's I don't know what it is here today. Reasonable is what it is. 75 today. Happy birthday. 75 years young. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Welcome to the stream, everybody. They messed up all the names, so like now I've got everybody with an @ symbol and on my view. Maybe I should load up the. I wonder if I actually load the channel, if it still shows the same thing. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Is this kind of annoying? Like, I don't see your names anymore. Like, it just shows me @ handles for your channels, I guess. Let's see. And where is the chat? Yeah, that's how it shows for y'all, too, it looks like. It's super annoying. Super annoying. I don't know whose infinite wisdom they decided to do that, but it makes it very difficult to talk to anybody. Let's see if it's in any of the settings to change. And I don't see any settings to change it. It's so stupid. Yeah, they changed it like Friday, I think it was. And it's a feature. You have to change your names. Let's see. I don't even think, I don't even see that you can do anything. Like this. Like when I click on it, like I can't, like, doesn't give me any options to do anything. That's so stupid. Yeah. I don't know what the logic was. Like it's hard to miss Finmore. Yeah. So Kimberly's in the chat, and nobody can see anybody's names anymore. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, if you're, I guess if your handle is your name, but if it's not, it's like, I don't know. That's pretty much a stupid idea. Whoever came up with that one. Anyway, sorry about that. I was like, I don't even know who's who with the handles are so drastically different than the names for most of y'all. I mean, I get some people, like some of you I know, Serge, Mark, Finborn, Rob, Mary, Gary, Andrew, Gayton, Nancy, but some people I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I know Kimberly and let's see. Water Zero, I think I know who you are. Yeah. I don't know, man. Darren, yeah. So, hey everybody. Glad to have you. And that's just stupid. That's just stupid. I so yeah, I gave you the nickname. I think I know where this came from though, because there was a complaint among creators. Like I've been in this live streaming group coaching thing for a while. It's actually run by YouTube, and a bunch of creators were complaining about people sharing too much, especially younger audiences sharing too much of their own personal information. And I don't know how this is better. Just, I think Google was trying to solve a problem, but I don't think they did it in a good way. So I digress. Anyway, so I came to talk about GPUs and TPUs and what the heck is that. And yesterday, Meta announcing they were going to buy like billions of dollars of TPUs from Google, or maybe Google was announcing that that was going to happen. What the heck does that even mean? What's a TPU? What's a GPU? Is it competing with Nvidia, like it's a big, complicated hot mess of stuff. And if you don't really understand, if most of us haven't dived into AI at all, but we took kind of these artificial neural network things that get built in the background, and somewhere along the way in the last 20 years since I took this stuff in graduate classes in college in the early 2000s, somewhere along the way, they started building Python code and creating these units. They're kind of like building blocks of AI, and they call them tensors. And that kind of got to be there were libraries created of code, so you didn't have to like code from scratch every time. You could use this tensor library, and Google was kind of a driver of it, and they've created their tensor processing unit that is an application specific integrated circuit that's highly specialized in doing tasks with those tensor code blocks. In other words, it can execute faster, more efficiently, more power efficiently than running it like on an Nvidia GPU, which is a graphics processing unit. You've heard Elon, and if you listen to Elon talks about how they're building their own AI chips. Those are ASICs. They're application-specific integrated circuits, just like Google's tensor processing units, which are application-specific integrated circuits. The application for TPUs is tensors. The application for Tesla's AI is running their AI and training their AI. And they do it a little different. If you've listened to Elon, they have a few opinions on what can actually run more efficiently and faster, especially when you put it on cars and stuff. So it's kind of interesting, this whole debate. Now, there's no doubt about it. Like ASICs, if you can afford to build an ASIC, which is an application-specific integrated circuit, think of it as a chip that's specialized to do the application. This is what Bitcoin miners run, right? They, by far and large, the most processed algorithm on the planet is SHA-256, which is what secures Bitcoin. All the Bitcoin miners use an ASIC that runs SHA-256 and does it extremely fast, way faster than any Intel CPU, which is a central processing unit, way faster than any Nvidia GPU or AMD GPU or any other circuit. And so these ASICs get designed, and when you design an ASIC, like you have some advantages. Like if you don't need to be able to do floating point math, you just don't have to include all the circuitry that it takes to do that. If you don't need certain memory caches and stuff like that, you don't have to include all the circuitry that it requires to do that. So your chip goes from being, if anybody's seen the size of like an Intel CPU, goes from being a giant to, being potentially very, very small and very, very power efficient for doing the applications that you need to do. And I haven't even got to the monologue part today. I'm just kind of explaining the background here. And, you can think toilet paper unit if we want, but it's tensor processing unit is what they are. Now, Google yesterday announcing they're doing a deal with Meta to potentially sell billions of dollars of these that they designed. And it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Like, when you think about it, like, is that taking away market share from Nvidia? Possibly. Could Google step up and be a new supplier of chips? And it's quite possible. So I did some research and dove in, and I just want to share some of the stuff I found in my newsfeed. See, it seems that every company on earth is suddenly an AI company, and even local coffee shops are now using neural networks to try to predict what you're going to order, and if you need a refill, or maybe your pet sitter is trying to leverage large language models to optimize walking routes, or whatever. I mean, it's a gold rush, right? AI gold rush, trying to fit AI into everything. Sounds like I can't help but find the parallels to we're trying to squeeze .com into everything. Now everything has a .com, everything has an app. But in the 90s, it didn't just work like that. I kind of feel like we're at the same place right now. AI doesn't have a fit for everything right now. And I'm not even sure we see the concepts of where it's going to go. We're probably going to go through some sort of flush out before we actually find the real way we're going to use it, just like the internet. It's a gold rush, but I think we're going to go through some hiccups, some fits, some false starts. So, like any good gold rush, everybody's talking about the lucky prospectors striking it rich, the open AIs, the Anthropics, the latest chatbots, the Gemini that can outrun everybody at the moment, and Grok, and it's these things can write a Shakespearean sonnet about your portfolio losses if you want. But today, we're not talking about the prospectors. We're talking about the guys selling the shovels, and not just any shovels. We're talking about custom forged, hyper specialized, brutally efficient shovels that might just decide who gets to own the entire gold mine. So this story starts, as many do, with a moment of sheer panic inside the pristine walls of Google headquarters. The year was 2013. Google's top minds run some simple calculations. They ask, what happens if every Android user on the planet uses our new voice search for just 3 minutes a day? The answer was terrifying to Google. To handle that load, just 3 minutes a day for every Android user on the planet, they would need to double their global data center capacity just for 3 minutes. Double it. The cost, the logistics, it was a freaking nightmare, a financial black hole created by their own success being the dominant operating system in the world. But 3 minutes a day is nothing. They were running this stuff on standard CPUs and GPUs, the kind of chips that Nvidia sells to gamers and, well, everybody else at this point. But for a specific, repetitive, heavy lifting task, an AI task, that these chips, they're kind of like a Swiss Army knife. And you're kind of trying to use that Swiss Army knife to do open heart surgery in AI. I mean, you could do it. Probably kind of messy, pretty inefficient. If it's the tool you got, I mean, you're carrying around a corkscrew and a tiny pair of scissors that maybe don't help when you're doing open heart surgery, right? So Google did something that most software companies don't do. They decided to build their own scalpel specifically for processing this workload. They called it a TPU, a tensor processing unit. This is an application-specific integrated circuit, like I was mentioning a second ago. It's a chip designed to do one thing and do it very efficiently. And it's run Google AI's TensorFlow code at lightning speeds, super fast, blazingly fast. They designed this in just 15 months. By 2015, before anybody even knew that these things existed, these little silicone brains were already powering Google Maps, Google Photos, all the Google stuff in the background. Now, why should we care, right? This is a decade-old integration internal project. Why do we care? Because that secret project that started over a decade ago is now the heart of the biggest battle in tech. The war against the Nvidia tax to do AI. Nvidia, great company, crazy valuations. They've built an empire. Their GPUs are the gold standard right now. And their CUDA software, which is a language that runs on their GPUs and can reconfigure how the GPUs work, it's kind of in every AI developer stack of code at this point. They have a near monopoly on the high-end AI training market, and they charge a hefty premium for it. Huh. Do they charge? We're talking about over 75% gross margins for these AI chips. I mean, it's a beautiful business for them, but it leaves a wide gap to come for the king. Everybody else out there, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, everybody that buys these, it's a problem. It's a big problem. It's an expensive problem. The cloud was once a high margin paradise. Running these running these data centers, the cloud, high margin paradise. But now we're seeing the profits get vaporized by the costs. Nvidia charging those high premiums. You got to buy tens of thousands of $40,000 Nvidia chips. Now all of a sudden the margins got thin. Business becoming a low margin utility for this cloud infrastructure, especially if it's AI powered cloud infrastructure. But Google has an ace up its sleeve. That little panic project from 2013, well, it's had a decade of growing. The latest version is version 7 of the TPU. It's a monster. According to the geeks from SemiAnalysis, it's arguably on par with Nvidia's best GPU, the Blackwell, that they've been bragging about how many they're selling every day. And here's the kicker, though. Google's new AI model, Gemini 3, or G-Mini 3, however you want to pronounce it, which is currently wiping the floor with OpenAI's ChatGPT on pretty much every benchmark, was 100% trained and is running only on these TPUs. It has nothing to do with NVIDIA's GPUs at all. Think about that. That's the proof. That's the validation. Google has a product that could beat NVIDIA's GPUs. Google's shown the world you don't need to pay NVIDIA tax to build world-beating AI. They close the loop. As I've talked about, everybody's going to be coming for the king. They designed a chip. They built an AI model. They trained it. And now they can run it on their own hardware that they design on their own cloud. I mean, it's a competitive moat. It's been a decade in the making. They started digging a long time ago. Now they filled it with water. Now they have a competitive advantage. So where's the investment opportunity here? Well, it's kind of a 3-horse race right now with a dark horse coming on the rail that I haven't mentioned yet. First, the obvious, we have Google, right? Their cloud business, GCP, is the only one that can offer top-tier AI performance without being beholden to NVIDIA margins. They can undercut competitors on price, or they can just pocket that difference. Come in slightly under NVIDIA and then pocket all the extra money. The TPU is their strategic weapon. They've already got a decade of design, 7 versions head start in the AI cloud war. Second, don't count out the king, though. NVIDIA, they make more money than anybody. As long as they spend their war chest properly, their ecosystem is a fortress. But the king is taking notice of what's going on. There's a rumor surfaced that OpenAI was renting Google's TPUs. Who was the first person to call Sam Altman when that news broke? Why, Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA. He knows the threat is real. He needs to lock in the customers. NVIDIA is a great company, but it's priced for eternal, unchallenged monopoly. But is it going to be? Is that the real story here? And this brings us to the dark horse in the whole thing. The real shovel seller's shovel seller, if you will. Broadcom, AVGO, it turns out, has been designing their own custom chips. It's ridiculously hard. So, when you design your own chip, who do you turn to? Who has the knowledge? Broadcom has the knowledge. They actually helped Google design the TPU. They're going to help Meta build their own chips. And in a massive power move, they just signed a deal with OpenAI to help them build their own custom chips to run a GPU. I mean, to run ChatGPT on their own custom chips. And these might be ready sometime in 2026. Broadcom is kind of the Switzerland of AI chip wars here. I mean, they're supplying the arms to all sides. And they're taking a little vig, taking a little cut. Their stock, it's been surging. Not just because of their own AI business, but because every time Google succeeds with a TPU, it validates the entire custom ASIC design model that Broadcom has enabled. So as you watch the headlines about all these AI chatbots and AI-powered coffee makers and whatever, the real war isn't the chat window. It's in the silicone. It's in the margins. It's the battle for architecture, efficiency, margins. I mean, if you could run, even Elon talks about how the fact that his AI chips are 10 times more efficient than if they bought Nvidia GPUs. So it's a fight to control the very infrastructure. So if you could roll out 10 times the AI data infrastructure and use the same power, why would you not use chips specifically designed for this stuff, right? So knowing where to look, knowing where the real gold can be made, that's the important part here. So keep tuned. I'll keep on this stuff. I keep researching, learning. I love this stuff. Chase it down every day. So be careful out there, as always. Those are the players right now. All trading involves a substantial risk of loss. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. This presentation is intended to be informational, educational, fun, entertaining. It's not a recommendation to be buying or selling any financial instrument, including stocks, options, bonds, forex, futures, cryptos, treasuries. If you desire personal financial advice, you need to hire and consult a financial advisor, which is not what I do. Don't pretend to be one here on YouTube. So be careful out there. You can lose money doing this thing we do called trading. I'm just a guy. I don't have a crystal ball. I got a bag of unicorn dust. I make predictions. I try to get stuff right. It doesn't always happen. Be careful. But how do we make money today is the big question out here. So we had this big head and shoulders on SPX. It looked like we were going to break down. We rejected, then we rejected, then we rejected. This is kind of a shiz show, if you will. Kind of a crap show. So we've got this. It's actually a channel if we were going to continue. So if we don't break out of this channel here, lower is kind of the bias here. This is a cautionary thing on the charts. So be freaking careful right here. With the inability of the SPX to break out. This is starting a downtrend, all right? This is not like a watermelon seed squeeze where we have higher lows and lower highs coming in here and getting in some sort of squeeze. This right here is setting up a channel. This channel runs on back, and this channel runs on back. This is kind of a downtrend, all right? Be careful. Till we get some higher lows put in here. Now, if we can make a higher low, we did that yesterday and shot up here, but the proportion on that, no bueno. We actually take this tool, the 3-point tool, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. We held a corrective bounce. That could be an A, B, C. Absolutely beautiful correction. Trend is down. Continuation is down. I'm a trend, pullback, continuation trader, and that's exactly what we have set up right here. The level to watch right now is where we bottomed out in this B right here. That's the level to watch. We get below that, it's tipping the odds. We're going on down. Hate to break it to you. Now, look at the futures. A little bit different story, but not a lot of bit different story. The little bit different story, we didn't do the pullback I was kind of hoping we would, and we actually set up something that maybe possibly could be construed as 5 up. Possibly. It's sloppy, but maybe. So we still have this same kind of level. We're still cooking in here. We're still potentially setting up for a possible pullback here. Now, it could come on up here and then retrace to here, and that would be acceptable and probably more bullish. But right now, it's kind of been lackluster. This price action, a little bit lackluster. And as long as we're below this high right here from just back a few days ago, right back here, Thursday, November 20th, 9 a.m., right when the market opened, as long as we're below that high, right up there, odds are we still have down pressure. Still have down pressure until we break above that. I think it still looks best with a retrace with a nice, beautiful higher low and then break out above those highs, but see what we actually get. Thanksgiving week is usually kind of lackluster price action wise, so be careful out there. Goose is late to the party. Welcome, Goose. And that's what we're cooking on here. So Nvidia dominates the market because the Chinese AI users don't even consider buying AMD because their models don't work on AMD software. And that's not entirely true. Yeah. So it depends. If you dive in and actually code AI models, you can use the Tensor library. You can code your own. You can, there's other competing libraries. I actually don't use Nvidia CUDA models at all. Like, I don't even install the CUDA libraries most of the time. So it's an interesting bit. And you listen to Tesla and they argue that trying to pan it over to a clean space to talk. If you listen to Tesla talk about it, they talk about how if you use integers, that processors are much faster at processing integers than they are at processing floating point numbers. Now, the gold standard for AI has been to use floating point numbers, and that's for a long time. This is why it's kind of slowed things down. Now, CPUs notoriously bad at doing floating point math. That's where GPUs stepped up the game. They created these units, very, very small, very fast processors inside, especially inside Nvidia GPUs, that can process floating point numbers very quickly, usually at a lower precision than what we see. A lot of CPUs use like a 64-bit precision, but a GPU may break that down to like an 8-bit precision. But that also creates problems. When you take a 64-bit number and you try to break it down into 8 bits, you lose a lot of bit precision. If you don't think that's the way it goes, you should look at it. These systems, when you look at it, they talk about how many cores they have inside those GPUs, how many processing cores. And it's like getting up to thousands now for Blackwell GPUs. But at the same time, those processing units aren't necessarily set up to process tensor units. A tensor may have to use in the code, like when you use TensorFlow, you may have to use a bunch of GPU cores to process one tensor. But the TPUs are set up to be a 1-for-1. One tensor uses one core in a TPU. So if you code in TensorFlow, your stuff automatically ports over already. And they have libraries that plug it into CUDA. So if you write in TensorFlow, It'll run on a TPU or a GPU. And if you can run it on a TPU and it runs on a TPU and it's 60% more efficient, it means you can run 40% more on the same electricity hardware or electricity infrastructure. It gives you a competitive advantage over running these. And if these have a 75% premium, but you could run 140% more on the same power requirements, even if they cost the same. So that's what we're talking about right here. That's the potential competitive advantage. AMD doing their own thing. They have cross-ported CUDA libraries, stuff like that to run on their own hardware. So it's kind of an interesting thing. I know a lot about a lot of this because of crypto mining. There's a lot of crypto mining stuff out there, and a lot of it's written in CUDA to run on GPUs. Now, you can't really mine Bitcoin on a GPU because the ASICs run circles around it, both from efficiency and just pure raw output. So CUDA cores don't do very good running crypto mining. It's not very efficient. So it's same thing for AI. Like you can build AI specific chips that are set up to run this stuff very efficiently. And if you don't need the floating point math like Tesla, they're finding they get an order of magnitude more efficiency out of avoiding floating point numbers. You can avoid a whole lot of silicone, and more silicone equals more heat, more power. And that's why they decided to just stick with integer math. 1, 2, 3, whole numbers instead of trying to make everything less than 1. So it gets to be a complicated thing. And funny enough, AI, the same algorithms I learned 20-something years ago are the same basic algorithms they're using. And they're kind of building blocks, and they're just combining the building blocks different ways to build the current infrastructure. I can jump in and look at it, and I'm like, oh, that's the same thing I learned. And you're just linking them together and putting this one with that one and putting a little front end processing on it and feeding it in there. And now the big difference is the fact that we have those chips that actually can run this stuff fast enough to keep up with the concepts that we have been working on for 30 years. So that's the real crux of the matter. How you process the data in the front end and get it back out, and how you arrange the blocks, that's where the real cutting edge stuff is coming from right now. We've already established what the blocks are and how they work. Now it's how you arrange them to accomplish the tasks that you want to accomplish. So jumping back to Nvidia, that's a downtrend, baby. Watch out for a lower low. Now, if we can break out of this downtrend, get back above this high from the 20th, that'd be an indication we might go higher. Till we do that, pressure is down. We may keep pressure down through December 10th. We are getting a kind of a data deluge this week. We've got CPI coming out. I guess PPI came out, not CPI. PPI came out. And tomorrow we're getting some unemployment claims, core durable goods, right into the shutdown for Thursday's market holiday for the US, Thanksgiving. And then Friday, half day, market closes at 1 p.m. Regular equities markets close at 1 p.m. So we'll see what happens. I've not seen a Thanksgiving week that was a super awesome banger, but I'm open to it. So on the, I guess the, let's see, coming up on the, well, that was weird. I didn't mean to skip a whole year. December the 10th here. We may chop around and grind until we get this right here. The market may kind of drift for the rest of this week into next week until we get to the 10th when we can get this right here. So that may be what we're waiting on. We may just continue to drift, and we may drift lower through that 10th. That actually on the 10th at 2 p.m. should be right in there. 16th, what the heck? 10th, 2 p.m. right there. So we may drift until we get to that point. And then we pop, or does the FOMC disappoint? Odds of rate cut have ramped up. I haven't loaded this tab since, I guess we reopened the government here. Fed decision in December. We've kind of coalesced around this 85% chance right here. It did kind of plummet briefly, and then it shot back up. So we'll see if that actually cooks. We were at 90% back in October. We dropped down to 22%. Now we're back to 86%, 85%. I don't think the rate cut matters to the market because it takes 2 years for it to cook through the economy. But you know, algorithm's gonna do their thing. We also have a downtrend cooking on Russell. We're right at testing it. If we break through, this could be an initial sign that we could turn things bullish. 2600 is still my upside target on Russell. Russell can go higher while ES and NQ go lower. It's a potential thing. So also oil still being soft. Still have my expectation that we get that dip down in the low 50s, which could also kick off a hot war in the Middle East to try to get prices back higher. They'll shoot some missiles if they can goose the price of oil. So be careful there. This still has kind of a coin flip. Is this the ABC higher, or is this an ABC lower? I have this one drawn on here, ABC temporary right here. We have the potential resistance right up here, just below the all-time high. And this could potentially be a starting point. You know, this could be the B right here. And we have a 1 down, a 2 retrace. As long as we're holding under that, 3, 4, 5 for the C. These are different. What would you call it? Lost what the terminology is. Degrees, different degrees right here. So that would be the bigger ABC, and this would be a smaller potential ABC. So we could be topped in a B, but it could also come up here. Don't know which one it is until price proves it. So right now we're watching, right now I would be watching this small pullback right here. We're sitting right at the 618. As long as we respect that, this can be a 1 down, a 2, we can get a 3, a 4, and a 5. Now looking at that, right now the 3 down would have potential coming right down here on the next move in gold. Bitcoin still being soft. Maybe that's an initial move up and we're working on a initial retrace. Potential for that to be 5 up. I don't guarantee it, but there's potential for it to hold. We may see it retrace. This has potential to be the 1, the 2. This kind of sketchily has a overlap here. 3, 4. We don't usually see 4 overlap with 1 on an actual bullish thing. So this is a caution right there, but it was just a fast little blip, just like that was a fast little blip. So we get the fast little blips overlapping. Now we're seeing this kind of sloppy price action down, which looks kind of like an A. We may get a B wave retrace of some sort to a 618, back to this 88 level. Then we got a C wave down back in here before we can build the reversal here. So if I was looking at this and trying to predict the squiggles, which is incredibly difficult, would watch for that rally back up to that zone, and then probably a continuation down here. That level would look something like 1 point, 2 point, 3 points. Missed the first click, yeah. And that puts it in the exact level where I would expect it to bounce, right in here. And then if we hold that 618 retrace, potentially sets up the bigger bounce in Bitcoin. Which would take us back up here. We could do it fast. We could do it slow. There's no like timeline on this. It's just, I'm just sketching out where the levels are. So the levels to watch right now, down here at 84,000. If you want to watch the small little squiggles, watch for a resistance at 87, 88,000. Watch for a turn down, break down below the low we just had overnight or this morning. Break down through that, probably coming down here to 84. If we hold on to 84, start breaking back up through 85 to 88, get through the 1 hour roadmap line, it sets the odds that we can come back up here to 98,000, and then we'll see what happens. Now, it also could possibly stop down here at 92,000 area, which would not be good, because then this would be an A, B, C proportion. That trend is down. That correction right there, it's a trend, pullback, continuation move lower. So you need to watch if we do these things on the small time frames for the rest of this week. Watch what happens up here. If we stop right in the low 90s, turn down again, break back below that 1 hour roadmap line, things are not going to be good. This is probably the initial sign that we have crypto winter kicking off. And winter's coming. If we start breaking down below this low. That's what I got to say right now on Bitcoin. Ethereum also has kind of a 5 up going. I like it. Getting the retrace support right down here. If we can hold on to it. Hold on to this. We can propel it to the next level higher. And next level higher. Something like this. So the warning level would be right here. We turn down from there. Probably back to winter's coming. If we do that. If we could break through, come up here, get through, right up in here. That's starting to look like we might go on up to all-time high. NKD, still working on the correction. Still might need to dip in here. Global liquidity indicator. They should be firing up the money printers anytime now. That could shoot this thing exponentially higher. We'll see. Dollar. Jump back to the daily charts. So, still unable to break through. So this is very overlappy. This kind of price action right here looks like corrective type price action. So that would be trend, pullback, continuation would be lower. That's still kind of what I'm thinking here. That might be in the cards for the dollar. With the way this is formed right here for the last couple months off of this September low, looks corrective. Might go for one more lower low. Apple pushing on up, getting a higher high. That target 284 right there, and then above that is 292. Amazon trying to hold on to that roadmap line. If we get back below it, if we see softness in, if we see the downtrend continue in NASDAQ, we may push this on lower. Google popping, baby. 337 is the target, the next upside target. Meta, potential to have held that bottom. I really kind of want to see a retrace here. And then the breakout through the roadmap line, and then we could be on like Donkey Kong for a bigger run higher. Microsoft still pushing down. If we don't hold on to this breakout from back here, last summer's highs, we broke out. If we don't hold on to that, probably coming down for a 618 retrace of this whole move up from back here in April up here to July. Probably doing a 618 retrace of that, and then like Meta, we'll see if they can hold it. Or do they fold it and go lower low? Nvidia, back to the roadmap line. The breakout from these highs back here last January, November. That top we put right out here a year ago, basically. If we don't hold on the roadmap line, that's where we're heading, is to retest that. I mean, Nvidia, despite all its, glory, has done nothing for a year. Come back and retest that. Tesla, still holding up in here, and still this looks kind of corrective, and like we need one more dip down here to clean this up. Really looking like an A, B, C correction that needs one more dip right there before we can be done with this crap and get a trend going again. Trend was up, correction is down, resumption of the trend is up. Netflix still being soft after the split as predicted. I expect the softness to continue until we find some sort of floor, which could be down here in the low 90, 90 to 100 area. And, it's a pretty wide zone, but at this point, I think we got to go down there and test it before we can go higher again, before we can build some support. So looking at stuff moving today, Keys was popping. Up go pull gainers, things that were moving $2 or more up in the pre-market. Keysight Technology, they make electric analytics equipment, I guess you might say, equipment instruments for testing circuits. Spectrum analyzers and oscilloscopes and all sorts of stuff like that. So breaking out, if they can't hold it, we may be set up for a return to the bottom again. They've tried to, this has kind of been a pattern for a couple of years now, like 4 years, where we try to break out and we come back to the bottom. Try to break out and come back to the bottom. And try to come back to the bottom. And come back to the bottom. And why would you expect this time to be any different? Probably going to come back to the bottom. So be careful. Broadcom, as we talked about, getting these ASIC design contracts, making money off of it. Back to the top. Turn a little red. Still has the roadmap line in sights. First move down, retrace. Next move down would be what I expect right here. Yeah. Somewhere around 300 at this point. Could be a little higher by the time we get there. I mean, this could take a little bit to get there. Might be later in December. ASML, still grinding this resistance here. I thought this looked corrective. A, B, C. We have parked right there basically for September, October, and now we're in, we're almost 3 months of sitting there sideways since we hit this target zone. It's not magic. This set up and looked corrective based on this price action, and the way we started right here. Thought this looked kind of corrective. We haven't popped the level that would tip this bullish. This was the move down. This was a potential correction to a lower high. Continuation can be down. Be careful out there. Spotify. To the target. A, B, C. We could. Now, if you're brave, you can start building a position here. If you're not so brave, wait for it to retest the roadmap line, get above the 618, and set up the upside target, which would actually be 820 to 850 right now. SYM, nice bounce off the roadmap line. Here's the high, here's the low. If we close in here today above that 618, 92 is the upside target. And Abercrombie and Fitch, return to the low. I would be very careful. If we bounce off of this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. Trend, pullback, continuation. Upside, if we can break up, get it back above these highs. Upside's up here, 150. Right now, that looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 down would be the potential. Now, that could be the end of this correction. Might be very careful here on Abercrombie and Fitch. CLS looks like it wants to come back to the roadmap line. Zoom, baby. Look at that. Offered this up during Market Masters yesterday that you could sell something down here in a 69, 70, 71. I did a 71 for this Friday. This pop, probably going to take that out for profit. If it's not already closed, I haven't paid attention. Beautiful, beautiful short-term burn there. KSS, Coles making a nice little pop. Target's 23. Eat. Wow, that was potentially done right there. That's a absolutely beautiful correction, right to the beautiful proportion target. Get back above that 618, which is actually right where we are. We can close above that today at 150. 211 is the upside. EMAT. So this could be an A wave down, a B wave retrace, despite being a little higher. That's still 3 wave in a B, and C would bring us all the way back down here if this plays out. Now, if we can, it does have the potential to go higher, but it's not a daily chart bounce. It is a weekly chart bounce, and the weekly chart can last 150 weeks from this entry right there until we get to this target up here. So this thing can screw around for 3 years before we actually get to the upside. SanDisk, Looks like it wants to come back to the roadmap line. ADI. No real moves here. No conviction. CDW. Looks like we're going down. S-bit. Just kind of hovering here. If we can hold on to the roadmap line, possibly they could pop again, but I'll be very careful. And inverse on circle. Burl droppers. Burlington, that's starting to look like a 3-wave down. A, B, C could come down just a bit lower, down in the 220s. AMD probably coming before the roadmap line. Now that we've come all the way down, then they've kind of filled the gap here. 180. Coinbase, look for that to hold. Look for that to hold and turn higher here. Yeah, we want to hold on to this 220 area and bounce higher. So this is a potential 1, 2, or potential, this is unlikely to be A, B, but it could be A, B, C would shoot it on up here. More likely to be a 1, 2 setup. 1, 2. The 3 would push us to ridiculous levels up here. If that's going to play out in a bounce. So I still hold a lot of hope in the crypto market. It's that these setups are really nice right now, but if they start breaking down, it's going to dash all my hope. So we need to see these hold on. Otherwise, no bueno. Dick's Sporting Goods looks like an A down, B, retrace, C would be down here. Didn't really move much. Target's still down here. Oops. Grab the wrong thing. Meant to grab the arrow. And the target. Not predicting time, just predicting levels. MSTR might push down just a little bit lower. We're in the zone to reverse, just like Coinbase. But we've got to actually reverse. If we keep pushing lower, it dashes all the hopes of a reversal. And trading on hope's not a good idea. That's why I wait for the reversal to show up. COHR, looks like we're going to retrace. MU could probably use a big retrace back down to the roadmap line. Oracle, that coming back for bigger retrace there. That's 618. If we can hold it at 180, great. If we don't hold it, might be cruising back down to 119. Legent Technologies, blasting through all the upsides here. Coming into a long-term resistance right here. This big bounce on, it's going to be a monthly charts, maybe. Probably didn't have enough. It's got enough candles. Ooh, it came just shy. Yeah, that's split in between a weekly and a monthly pattern. Unclear. Might need lower to go. More chop in store for that one. QCOM still can't break out of this freaking consolidation. We try to break down, try to break out, just stuck sideways. More sideways to go. Still working on this retrace. Here's the low, here's the high. We could come down in here, retest this 105 to 95 level. Big fat zone. Core weave, retrace to 618. If we can hold on to it, we could potentially bounce here. But if we don't hold on to this zone, watch out below. Probably going lower low. PLTR still coming down. Oh, we got the roadmap line. Beautiful. Now watch out. This can go on a bigger retrace here. Just matching size. We could, if we don't hold on to the roadmap line, we could be back down to 105. And circle. Still hunting a bottom here. We may need to push lower low before we can find a bottom in reverse. Setups for today. Things that have my signature bounce pattern set up. Here's the high. Here's the low. This actually picked up this high, that low. Because of the bounce below. Actually, it grabbed that one, but let's go with this one right here. 113. I would just wait. Like, this is so unclear. I would just wait till we actually close above this up here. 112. It's been so choppy. Yeah. That's what I would do on that one. It just doesn't make me feel strong. And then the statistics here don't make me feel like getting involved in that one anyway. ALHC. We did a mini bounce right here. Target 19. CLDX. Here's the high. Here's the low. There's the entry. 29.46 targets. Not great statistics. DJCO. Here's a high. Here's a low. There's the entry. And 526 targets. Not bad on those statistics right there. 28, 78, 3.65. That might be a good one to go after. Now, this could take, remember, these can take 7 months to play out on the daily chart. You take one of these daily setups, 7 months to account for 99.7% of the time. It still leaves part of the time it could not work. So be careful. And there's 75% likely to get to the target. You know, it's 0.3% of the time it can last longer than 7 months. Here's the target. 30.75. No statistics that matter. Guts. That's a downtrend. Not the biggest fan of downtrends. $1.82 and low price stuff. So under 20 bucks, be careful. Stop is $1. So stop on $1. That puts the stop at 0 basically. So that's probably going to not be a great one. Halo. Here's the high. Here's the low. Entry, 82 targets. MMS. Here's the high. Here's the low. There's the entry, 94 targets. Mod. Here's the high. Here's the low. There's the entry, 172 targets. Not great statistics. MYGN. I don't like that tight little price action there, but $9 target. QGEN. It picked up on this swing right there. And 50 target. RP. Nasty price action. 31 possibly. SPMD. 59, 58, 90. Still don't like that price action. USFD, US Foods. Here's the high, here's the low. I'd be waiting for that entry, not the small little bounce here. 87.40 target. VIR. And that one's almost to the target at 680. Not great statistics. XENE. Here's the high, here's the low, there's the entry, and 45.30 target. Hopefully that was helpful for somebody. Let me know in the chat. And as far as bias for the day goes, still watching out for the downside here. That's kind of where we started. Watch out. We've got this high up here, 67.90. Got this level down here of support at 6,600. That's kind of the uprights. If we stay in between them, that's kind of what I expect this week, is just churning in the zone, not really going anywhere, because we have a lackluster Thanksgiving week. That's what I kind of expect. So have a great day, everybody. Let's see. And yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no crypto winner confirmed yet, so I don't necessarily believe that we're in that yet. We just have the signs. Winter is coming, but we don't have it. You know, we have initial early signs that, you know, when the leaves have started to fall, maybe it's coming into winter, but we still have some potential sunny days left. We could still go to an all-time high. We could still set a record high. So be careful. Yeah, I don't have RKT. Never had RKT. So be careful out there. And I'll be back later. I guess you can come see me at Market Masters at 11:30 if you want to. We'll talk more trades, more opportunities. Comes up, me and Jack. Links in the description. Otherwise, I'll be back at 5 p.m. for 30 minutes of awesome. Come hang out. Bring your requests. We'll do like an hour of everybody, and then we'll do an AMA with channel members. So make sure you're a channel member if you want to ask me anything. Have a great day, everybody.